So I went down to the Defend Our Juries action in Trafalgar Square, which was peaceful. It was about well, there was 500 arrests. I'd say there was about 1,000 people there, mainly pensioners. And I spoke to them about why is it that it's pensioners, and a lot of the older people said to me that it's because they don't have jobs to lose. They're not interested in traveling abroad because obviously you can't travel to the US, and so in the EU, if you've been arrested for these um, under this legislation. Um, and I mean, so I think there's been this narrative from certain parts of the media that they're that essentially the people on these marches hate Jewish people. Um, and I think there's a wider inability within the media to separate Israel and support from Israel from the Jewish community. And there seems to be an inability to like hold that you can be Jewish and not support Israel. And actually, I over the weekend interviewed the co-founder of Namod, which is one of the organizers of the Jewish bloc, at this protest. And I mean, she verbalized that sentiment better than I ever could. So go and listen to that if you haven't already.
Should we have a little bit of it in the pod now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pro-Palestine protest by Defend Our Juries that is happening the day that this podcast will go out on Saturday. A lot of people are calling for that protest to not go ahead. The Met Police have said it shouldn't go ahead. What do you make of that?
I mean, I think it's ridiculous. I don't think these two things are connected. And I think this constant desire to pit Jewish people against the Palestine movement when first of all, as if like necessarily these things are inherently related. Like that's the media, and that's the Metropolitan Police intentionally drawing connections where there might not be any. We know I was one of the organizers initial organizers of the Jewish bloc on the Palestine solidarity marches that have been happening very frequently over the last 2 years. I've been in I've been in organizing spaces around Palestine the last decade, and I've always felt welcome. I think this idea that implying that the way to respect Jewish people is to say that we're fine with our civil liberties being restricted is ridiculous. I know Jewish people going to those protests on Saturday. Um, so yeah, I think this is just an excuse, and I find it pretty galling actually that at a time when we just want to mourn our dead. We are, as I said, being forced to like come out into the media and say, to be part of this rigmarole of sort of pushing back against this like ludicrous and effect like shameless politicization of this issue and of this attack.
Yeah. And also, when I was there, I spoke to a lot of Jewish people. Maybe we should, maybe we should hear from the son of a Holocaust survivor here.
Yeah.
I don't judge what is and is not anti-Semitic on the basis of what the Metropolitan Police say, because to be fair to them, they know absolutely nothing about it. As the son of a Holocaust survivor, I have some idea what anti-Semitism is. And I've been on many, if not most, of the Palestine demonstrations in London, with many other Jewish people in the Jewish bloc, with other Holocaust survivor descendants, and even with Holocaust survivors. And it is the warmth and the support, the love that we get from the vast majority of demonstrators is just staggering, with not even an iota of anti-Semitism whatsoever. The government and the media, mainstream media, the politicians are systematically lying that the pro-Palestine movement in this country is full of anti-Semites. And all we can do is keep pushing back against it. But unfortunately, the mainstream media, unlike yourself, don't want to interview Jewish people who are telling the truth. They simply want to turn to the chief rabbi, unelected, not representative of the Jewish community, and the board of deputies and others, this minority of Jews who are fanatically pro-Israel and simply do not represent the majority of Jews in this country.
And also, if you've been on these marches, you know that there's always the children of Holocaust survivors, but also Stephen Capo, he is a Holocaust survivor, and he's often on these marches as well. And so I think there's just a general lack of nuance in this conversation. And also, I think there's people who deliberately want to stoke fear around these protests. But actually, if you go to them, you see that they're really peaceful. It's pensioners. The amount of arrests was I mean, to see hundreds and hundreds of officers arresting pensioners on mobility scooters, pensioners who were infirm, I just find the optics of that like incredibly troubling.
Mhm.
It's quite similar to the Extinction Rebellion and Just Stop Oil stuff, isn't it? Where it's basically like, I'm retired, so I don't mind a terrorism charge.
Yeah.
In the same way that we might. It's a tricky one, isn't it? I've reported from these protests, not all of them. I don't doubt. In fact, we know that particularly at some of the larger marches, you have hundreds of thousands of people. There are obviously anti-Semites
Definitely.
there. But the sort of the overwhelming sort of current of opinion that I've detected is more opposition to the massacre of Gaza than it is anything else. There's so much within this that I want to talk about. We'll come to the arrests and the sort of the political posturing and asks around these protests in a minute. But obviously we had the worst anti-Semitic terror attack in Britain since the 90s last week.
Mhm.
And that was met on the day that it happened with some people going out and sort of waving Palestine flags around sort of tube stations in London and things like that. I've been having conversations with people about this and like whether or not the march, the action at the weekend was appropriate. And I think it was. I think the people that went out on the same day and were waving Palestine flags is like, what are you doing if not just sort of celebrating the massacre of Jews, which was pretty grim. But I also think it's entirely possible to hold. Call me a radical. I think it's possible to hold within your head. You can oppose like murderous terror attacks on Britain's Jewish community and also simultaneously sort of protest about what Israel's doing in Gaza. I think like you can do both of those things. I think by the time it got to the weekend, is it in poor taste? I mean, some people will say yes, some people will say no. But the reason given by high-profile British politicians was essentially, the police's operational capacity after the terror attack is being stretched because we have to provide coverage to all of the synagogues in London. We want to provide them with adequate protection. And if you guys turn up in Parliament Square and sort of, ask us to Trafalgar Square and ask us to arrest 500 of you, you are severely limiting our capacity to keep Jewish people safe. And it's kind of like, well, you didn't have to pass the terror legislation
Yeah.
that meant that the pensioners who hold a piece of paper have to be arrested. And also here's an idea. How about just, a competent police force that can do two things at once? Calling freelancers, small and mid-sized business owners. Tide's Instant Saver account offers up to 4% AER variable, flexible access and competitive returns.
Unlike other options on the market, you won't need to hold your money with Tide for a fixed period. That means you'll have instant access and free withdrawals whenever you need it.
You can get started today with just £1, making it easy to start growing your business savings.
Want to know what you'll earn? Tide's clever calculator gives you a clear picture up front.
Our audience will receive £100 cash back when you deposit £5,000 within the first 30 days of opening your Tide Instant Saver account.
Use code JOE, that's JOE, JOE. New members receive an annual equivalent rate of up to 4% AER variable, free for 6 months. For the full offer, visit tide.co/Joe. T's and C's apply.
I get where people are coming from when they say things like, is it insensitive to do a protest like this a couple of days after a terrorist attack? And I think it's just more of a conflation with the Jewish community and the state of Israel. And I think it's unfair to continue with that. I think for the longest time, for the last 2 years, you've had this. I mean, it's the second anniversary of October 7th today.
Tomorrow.
Is it not the 7th today?
It's 6.
It's the 6th. Tomorrow's the second anniversary. And I think for the British public in general, there's been a lot of learning and thinking about Britain's role in the situation between Israel and Palestine historically, not just since 2023, where people have a far deeper understanding of the dynamics there and Britain's dynamics with that geopolitical situation now. And I think you would have gotten away with turning around and saying, oh, well, you can't go and do a Palestine protest after this terrorist attack on the Jewish community in Manchester. You could have got away with that maybe 2 years ago, but I don't think you can anymore. And I think the longer that it goes on and the more that the balance of public opinion switches in quite a reasonable way to the opposition of the massacre of innocent people in a place where they're penned in and at the whims of drones and an army that is equipped to the gills by the American government, I don't think you can continue to have this this refereeing of how people feel about that situation off the basis of your conflation with the state perpetrating those crimes and a minority community in the UK. I think it's unfair to Jewish people in the UK to continue to have this conflation with the state of Israel. And you touched on it there a second ago, that like, yes, you can be Jewish and be opposed to the state of Israel, but even whether you're opposed or not opposed, you have the right as a Jewish person to not think about the state of Israel whatsoever. Like I think Adam Friedland on his podcast a while ago with Richie Torres says to Richie Torres during the podcast, I shouldn't have to think about being Jewish this much just because of politicians and how they conflate my Judaism with the crimes of this state. And I think like, it's even, I know we've already had 2 clips already, but Ben Houchen yesterday was on Laura Kuenssberg and he said something that is, quite frankly, I see as deplorable. Where, should we play it now?
Yeah.
I think some of the examples you just gave that are an example of the useful idiots that we've seen who are supporting hateful marches where they are supporting Hamas, they're supporting Palestinian Action. We saw, as you said, more than 500 arrests, so it's not a peaceful protest in any way, shape or form. And they're being used by these hateful organisations as useful idiots to allow this to continue. There's a lot going on behind the scenes here where there are organisations that are trying to drive dividing our communities across this country.
So he says that Jewish people that have the compassion to protest against the massacre of innocent people are being used as useful idiots by terrorist sympathizers. I think, again, as I said, 2 years ago, you probably could have got away with that. It could have just coasted over people's heads. But I think now, with the knowledge that British people have, and I keep saying British people because I think a lot of other communities, particularly where I'm from, we've always kind of had a connection to that. But I think saying something like that is as anti-Semitic, well, maybe not as anti-Semitic, but it should be regarded as anti-Semitism to say that somebody is a useful idiot because they have compassion for the harm done to another community.
Thanks to Tide and their instant savings account for sponsoring this week's podcast.
New members receive an annual equivalent rate of up to 4% AER variable.
Our audience will receive £100 cash back when you deposit £5,000 within the first 30 days of opening your Tide Instant Saver account.
Use code JOE. For the full offer, visit tide.co/Joe. T's and C's apply.